Okay, we're going to be putting some stuff together today instead of taking it apart, and we might take some more stuff apart, but we'll see how things going back together goes. Some good news, some sideways news, not necessarily bad, but not good. One piece of good news, Dad was able to get this cable welded up, so that's savable. We'll have to run it. Should be okay. That thing doesn't really do a whole lot of work. The shaft collars for my carrier or bearing carrier are ground, so hopefully we can get that together this evening. As long as it goes together good, hopefully get that back in its little hidey hole down here. Unfortunately, for the 3-point cylinders, the chrome grind shop that Dad always used for his cylinder work, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from here. Apparently the owner died from cancer on Christmas Day here this last December, and there's nobody to take the place over, so they just up and closed the doors and walked away, or sold everything, and that was that, and didn't tell anybody. So that was the only local shop that does chroming and grinding all in house. There's a local grind shop that Dad doesn't necessarily like using because they screwed a bunch of stuff up before, and there's another local chrome shop, but they won't grind. So you'd have to have take the cylinder somewhere, have them ground, take them to the other place, have them chrome, take them back, have them ground. So there's a bunch of back. So there's 3 other places, but none of them are local that he wants to call and check on. He's never used any of them before because he hasn't had to, except for this guy up here. But so you got to call and see what kind of lead times they have as far as getting these things done. If it's going to be too far out, then we're just going to stuff them back together and do them at a later date, because I want to get this thing up and running. But if they can get them done in like a week, we'll hold off. That way I've only got don't have to tear them apart again. But we'll see what we got time. That's why I wanted to get working on this thing earlier in the year, because just in case something stupid like this came along, I had time to adjust, and we don't have time to adjust anymore. So anyhow, first things first, we'll get this cable back in, because that's the easy one, as long as it threads back under the tank decent. So we want to go. Can I set you there? Yeah, maybe, kinda, sorta. Nope. Not working. It's dark. Oh, I'm just gonna. Oh, we can go right here. We can go somewhat in here. You're a little crooked, but it's temporary for a hot minute. So we gotta go under this guy here, and then I want to go under that. And then we gotta go through there, and then I'm gonna have to go get a light. Alright. Pretty nice if that light wasn't junk. Frickin' LEDs. I don't get how you... I mean, even cheap LEDs shouldn't... I mean, it's a damn diode. How do you... I don't know. The finest shit China can offer, even the... I don't know. I can't remember how many different brands he's run through, and every single one of them. They'll work for like 8 months to a year, and then they'll get that blinky thing going on. Okay, so this goes here somewhere-ish. Oh no. Come on, go over it, you dirty bastard. There we go. And I'm gonna go ahead and just replace that bolt because it's seen better days. All right, we're all hooked back up. It's a little sticky at the bottom, but it does move. Not too shabby. So it's a fair sight better than what it was when we started yesterday. Fortunately, there's not really a way to like... Hold on. Alright, I went back and shot that mechanical linkage back, not the cable, but the cable linkage the cable hooks to up with some penetrating grease. Normally in something like that you don't want to grease it at all because the grease collects dirt and then the dirt makes it stick. However, until it gets shined back up from use, got to do something to keep it, because the cable's fine. You can take the cable with 2 fingers and work it back and forth. The cable's perfect. It's just a matter of getting, because you don't, I mean, I thought about while I had it apart trying to get in there and buff all the rails and everything clean, but it's like, if you get all the paint and everything that's left in there off, it's just going to rust up worse and grab worse. So what do you do? I don't know. So it works, and it works fairly decent. So that's the big thing. So I guess now we will jump back on that bearing carrier. Try to get that finished up yet tonight. All right, here's the collars. I don't know if you can see the grind marks on them. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we're good to go this time. So this one is top bottom. Spacers are in, so bearings can slip in there. And here is, I guess if you want to call it, the dumb thing about how they designed this. It would have made a whole lot more sense, since the bearings just pull up tight against those spacers and that's what sets your running clearance. If these bearings and sleeves were just a really tight, like, slip fit, so that you could put these together with like a rubber hammer or something. If you had to take them apart, put them back together a lot to get the clearance set, rather than having them interference fit where you have to press everything together. A, it makes assembly a pain in the ass, and B, it makes checking bearing clearances a pain in the ass, because if you don't have everything like seated well, it would have made a whole lot more sense if these things were a really good snug slip fit versus a press fit like what they made it. It's kind of dumb, but is what it is. So this is what we got to deal with. All right, next I got to speedy sleeve the couplers. I got the bearing carriers assembled. I figured you saw me do that in the last video. You didn't need to see it again. So we're gonna do this right here, Neo Arbor Press. Gonna put some Permatex on. This will help seal up in between the sleeve and the coupler. Clean the excess off when we get up there. And then this little spacer I made up, and that will basically allow you to just bottom out the little push cup they got here, and it will set the sleeve right where it needs to be, and all the couplers were the sleeve needed to be in the same spot, so. Just like that. Alright, it's put together without seals because I just wanted to make sure when everything was tightened up that we weren't in a bind. That one feels good. That one's got a little bit more free play in it than this one. Or, well, I should say a little less drag. But they're both plenty tight, not too much of a bind, not too loose. So I think we're good to go ahead and knock the seals in it and do the final assembly. Alright, same thing. Arbor press, well, kind of same thing. Arbor press, seal, big old socket. I'm gonna need 2 hands for this part. Part that I don't remember, I would assume that those seals just get bottomed out. Yeah, bottomed out in that groove. There we go. It's been apart long enough, I can't remember. But I'm pretty sure that's the way it was. Alright, putting the yolks back in. So far, so good. Make sure to put plenty of lube on there because the initial run-in on these, they're going to be a little dry. So the manual does not specify what kind of grease to run in this. It just says multi-purpose grease. Multi-purpose grease can be a lot of things. So don't know why this one does this. No matter which coupler I put on this side of this shaft, they stick going on, but then you can take 2 fingers and pop them right off. Cannot figure out why. I've looked over the splines on, but I've looked over everything. There's no reason why it should do that, but it does it. See, comes right off. There's no reason for it to put up a fight, but it does. There we go. Got it. Anyhow, grease. So, like I said, there's no specification as to exactly what kind of grease to run in this thing in the book. And in all honesty, don't really know why they chose to make this greasable to begin with, because it would have been a lot better application if they would have set it up like a wheel bearing on a truck where it was just running an oil bath. Especially for what it's doing, but they didn't. So, the fact that it's not really a high pressure, I mean, the bearings as far as size are way overkill for what they're doing. They're not really carrying any load. They're just kind of along for the ride. So with that in mind, what we're going to run in this is cornhead grease. Easy to handle. You pump it right in and then warms up, turns to an oil, cools back down, turns back into a grease. There's absolutely zero reason why it won't work in this situation, and it would probably, it's a lighter grease. It's going to produce less heat because there's going to be less friction. Also, it would be better in cold weather operation, which if I ever get a chisel plow for behind this thing, which I hope I do here sometime in the near future, I'm going to be running in a cold lot. Just a lighter grease like cornhead grease that's akin to 80-90 to begin with would be a lot better in this application. So that's what we're going to do for grease. Also, found out the lower, the bottom shaft was the one that was A, loose, and B, the most tore up as far as seal damage and wear and blah, blah, blah. Because this, and you can tell that grease zerk right there has got a little yellow in it. That's newer than the rest of them. It was yellow zinc. This is supposed to be a breather. That's a little 1 pound pressure relief breather. That way you can't overpressure the chamber in here by pumping too much grease into it. So they were probably over greasing this, over pressurizing it, putting too much tension on the seals, causing excessive wear. Possibly also why this side kept getting loose. So I have to buy another one of McMaster Car sells them. I got to get another one of these coming, but I've been holding off on it in case I need to get anything else from McMaster Car so I can get it all in one shot. So, and also, you're not, the way this is all laid out as far as a grease pattern, you should never actually put grease in this fitting. You should grease this fitting and grease this fitting, which would hit both bearings and push the grease into the center of the chamber and then relieve pressure here. This one is kind of useless the way this whole thing is laid out, so don't even know why it's there. So this is probably going to end up being a pipe plug. That way nobody's tempted to grease it. Not that this tractor's going anywhere anytime soon, but so yeah, that's what's going to happen here. I just got to get another one of these and we'll be on our way. All right, there's that little mother bucker. Mind you, the book was absolutely zero help on this. Isn't even mentioned in the shop manual. Like, this is just figure it out on your own. That's why I'm hoping that through talking to certain individuals that own these things, there might be some better service literature out there available for them. Because the one I got from the museum, which is supposedly the only one they have, is, I'm not afraid to say it, trash. Like, normally, you know, all the other tractors I've got, you know, the service books are, you know, that friggin' thick. Nah, and we're like barely thicker than the operator's manual. And there's only a page and a half that even talks about the articulation joint. And this isn't even mentioned in that. It's not mentioned in the dry. There's nothing. Nada. This is the little figured out on your own. There has to be something, there had to have been something better printed, because there's no way that they could pawn these things off and then tell a dealer, here, this is what you get for it, figure it out. But it gives no torque value for these nuts, so I ran them up to 100 foot-pounds, felt pretty good. I mean, they're a spanner nut. They're not meant to be high torque, otherwise you're going to break the socket. I put a hurting on the socket getting them off because they were stuck. So I torqued them to 100 foot-pounds plus however many little degrees I had to get a tab to line up. So, but they're all torqued. They all have a lock tab engaged. We're all golden. Everything, well, other than the seal drag now makes it feel harder, but yeah, should be good to go. So with that being said, it's getting kind of late. I'm not going to try to stuff this in yet tonight. I'm going to bring the bolts up here because whoever put it together last time used way too much Loctite, like to the point where the bolts didn't want to come out of the holes even after they were disengaged from the threads. So I chased these threads to get all the residue out, so these are all clean. I just have to get the bolts wire brushed so that they're cleaned up. And actually I might just chase them. I have to see how bad they look, but I'll get the bolts cleaned up yet tonight and get the grease scraped out of the hole where this goes so that everything goes back together nicer. But I'll just go ahead and do that off camera, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow to put this thing back in and hopefully start working on remote valves. So we'll catch you tomorrow. I believe I screwed up and said ANICs. It's been a long day. I meant thread locker. Loctite. Like way, like made the threads disappear way too much. So I gotta clean all that crap off. Alright. I got most of the grease scraped out yesterday. Well, at least I scraped out of the profile of where this has to go. It need a power washer. Gonna clean the rest of it up, but it's gonna make going in easier anyhow. So yeah, crap, I missed it. There's, ow, that's bright. There's a little bit of grease on that face yet. Okay, I gotta clean that face off real quick, and then we can horse this thing back in here. Okay, you have to bear with me here. There's not really any place to put the camera where it won't be in the way. And there's also not much of a place to put the camera where you can actually see what the heck's going to be going on in there. So we're just going to do the best we can with what we got. And I need to put this in. Need to go in that way first. The big thing's gonna be, I mean, what would have made this simple was to pull both drive shafts, but ain't nobody got time for that. So really the hard part is just getting it stood up. Once it's stood up, there's plenty of room in there to manipulate it. It's just getting it stood up. And then, oh, that's a lot easier. Somehow when I was pulling it out, it fell at a real goofy angle, and I could not for the life of me get it back the way I wanted it. And then it got wedged, and everything just got real fun for a hot minute. But it's got to go in. You got to get one yoke started, get it in, drop it down, and then slide the top in, and then pick it back up to line it. It's a little bit of a I mean, I know they were trying to keep strength in this casting, but they could have taken a little bit more webbing out and made this, of course. Again, if you take all the drive shafts out, this job would also be easier. Okay, we're sitting. Okay, this is where I'm going to need pry bars and room, and we'll catch you in a little bit. All right, it's back in and bolted in. It's a little bit of a trick getting that thing in there. That's one of them deals where you have to hold your tongue just right and stand on your head and sacrifice a virgin to the mechanic gods, and it'll slide in there. But you kind of gotta, it's gotta go in. I tried going out bottom first. It would not go, would not go. Or sorry, top first. So I tried putting it back in bottom first, you know, because gravity helps you. Would not, at least I could not figure out a way to make it go in bottom first. So you gotta get it in there with both yokes standing straight up, because there's a cutout up top and a cutout up bottom for the yokes to halfway fit through. So you gotta cock it with the yoke standing up, work the top yoke in, and push it up as far as you can. But then you still can't get it up high enough to start this yoke by about yay much. And you can't get it to go up all the way in that groove, because with the yoke standing up, this hits the top of the casting here, or the welding it. So you gotta work it in there, and then it'll give you enough wiggle room to start turning that top yoke, and then you can wiggle it around and work it around until the yoke's starting to go sideways, and it'll come through, and then you can push it all the way up, slide the bottom one in, and then you're home. But it takes a little bit of doing. So now we can I'm just gonna do the top shafts, bolting them back up. I did order parts to do this rear shaft seal and this front shaft seal. So we'll see how things go. Although looking at it, that rear one does not look, I don't know. I bought seals. We'll see how things go. Anyhow, sorry, I'm staring at stuff. So I'm gonna do this rear one first. You can't be here because you'll be in the way, and then I can show you the front one. All right, so here's one of those Manuel things, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This is the only section in the manual that mentions anything about these drive shafts. For some reason, it's under engine and main drive shafts. Don't know why, but it is. So the torque values they give you: rear main drive shaft yoke to yoke cap screw, which I would assume are the ones we're dealing with here, because it's tying the yoke to the yoke. Like those are, I don't know what else they would be. Main drive shaft, which is the 1/2-inch bolts, they say 26 to 28 foot-pounds. PTO drive shaft yoke to yoke cap screws, which are the 3/8, 41 to 45. Riddle me that. Why are the bigger bolts the lower torque value? I think somebody proofread this wrong, and those are supposed to be reversed, because 26 to 28 foot-pounds is kind of right in line for a 3/8 fine thread bolt. So we're going to go with the 28 and the 45. We're going to reverse those. That makes a whole lot more sense. All right, let's get this one going. Pulling these suckers back together is a bit of a chore. The other one I was able to do with the bolts. This one's collapsed far enough. I'm probably not going to be able to do that. Well, what can I do? All the grease is suctioned in there. Okay, I was way overthinking that. Smacked the yoke a couple times with a plastic hammer and it came right loose. Run it a little bit, get some of that nasty old grease out of there, and I'm sure they'll limber right up. But I am putting blue Loctite on these bolts just to be safe. Come on, start, you booger. Oh, well, it would help if... There we go. Alright, and then these yokes are kind of they're not really a press fit, but they are a very snug fit the cross is a snug fit onto the yoke. So alternate sides of the cap, and then alternate sides and kind of pull everything up square, and then give her a torque. And do the other two, or up two on the other side, and we're good to go. Alright, both shafts, or top shafts anyhow, are back in. Like I say, we'll leave them bottom ones till my parts show up and see if I feel like doing those bottom shaft seals, try to take care of them leaks. Also, this thing I noticed, somebody welded on this extra plate and added this extra pickup switch. And the original ones are both still in place over on this side of the tractor. So I guess I'd be curious. Probably nothing I'm going to screw with right now. There's the original two switches on the correct mounting plate. They're all still wired up. Everything looks kosher. So I'd be curious. Probably going to wait till later. Not necessarily this go around, but to trace down this wire for this new switch over here and see where it goes, what it's actually hooked to. I think it gets lost down here. Or no, does it go into this box of crap over here? Yeah, it does. It goes into... You know, the more I look at it, the more I wonder... Hell no, because there's a bunch of crap wired up right there. Let's say, the more I look at it, the more I wonder if they actually hacked this harness up, or if they added some stuff to run a piece of equipment that they... But that's all original harness right there. And that's all... I don't know, need to... just out of curiosity, I'm gonna get a screwdriver and we're gonna open that box up and see what's actually inside of it. Okay, I don't know what I was expecting to find in there, but this ain't it. I don't know what this thing is. Red Lion controls. What in the name of all that's holy? And at least they gave me some sort of diagram. So that's the proc switch that they added over there that goes into whatever this doohickey is here. That they've got power and ground going to. And power and ground going to the switch. Input going. And then a relay and a relay. And basically all of this goes into the clutch brake, which I'm guessing is that solenoid right there. I am so confused right now. And then it says set dip switches, source on, logic on, SNK, which maybe means sync, is off. Is this some sort of brain box that they tried to wire up to control the clutch brake? I don't know. If somebody recognizes what the heck that is and can make any sense of what this is, let me know, because I'm trying to figure it. It's gotta be something they did to control the clutch brake somehow. But I don't know how they're doing it without input from the clutch switch, or like the clutch pedal switch. Interesting. That's not at all what I expected to find in that box, like at all. I figured it's just gonna be like a rat's nest of wires, not. Interesting. Well, I'll close it back up because there's nothing I can do in there, because that's way, way, way out of my wheelhouse. Alright, Dad came down and looked at that thing. We're wondering if at some point it had something, since they pulled a planner with this, we're wondering if it actually had something to do with some sort of planner, monitor, control, something or other, what have you. So it might come down to, I might have to call the guy I bought it from and ask him, do you know what the heck this thing is, and can it be removed from the tractor? So, anywho, with that being said, it is time to start screwing with these here valves. So we gotta get wait, is that, it's got gray paint on it. I was gonna say, does this even belong here? Because it's got that right there. But it's awful dang crusty, like somebody made it out of scrap. Alright. Get a wrench, get that cover off so we can get a good look-see at our control levers. Alright, so there's our levers. Cables come into the bottom, and then you work this rock shaft. And these are all free on the shaft, which they're free, it means we got problems with the cables most likely. This does have gray paint on it. Like, it's just not cut very well. It's cut with it's not a very nice bend. Like, I'm not saying that there's not supposed to be a cover on it. I just don't think this is the one that's supposed to be on it. And then on the flip side, those things are that shaft is greasable. So I don't know why you'd want to cover. Oh, this is definitely, they cut it out of something that already had gray paint. So you can see where the paint burnt back from the grinder. And you can see the grinder mark. Yeah, somebody made this. This doesn't even belong on there. Well, if that's the case, have to look in the parts book and see if there's actually supposed to be a cover on that. And if there is, what it's supposed to look like. But anyhow, I was really hoping it was going to be these shafts, because that means that the cables were going to be nice and free. But I'm going to unhook this first one here, because the other possibility could be that the spools are stuck in the valves, which wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities. So I'm going to unhook this. Let me unhook this first cable, get it free from the lever, see if the cable will move, and if the cable moves, that means that our spools are stuck, which from sitting wouldn't surprise me either. Okay, I got the cable unhooked at the valve. So, let's see. Logic would say inside valve is inside handle. Looky there. Well, that just made my day a whole lot better, because that probably means that none of these cable, well, the 3-point cable the 3-point cable might still be, because it's unhooked and it still won't move. But we might be able to yank on it with a pair of pliers and get it freed up. But that probably means it's just the spool stuck, and that's a whole lot easier to work with than cables. Alright, I went and checked the parts book just to make sure. Get these out of the way so I quit stepping. Just to make sure that there's nothing out of the ordinary about these valves. They're all just standard pressure detent valves like what they used on the 55 series. And so there's nothing, I mean, unless I was going in and replacing, let's say the poppets and stuff like that, and actually like completely rebuilding the valves. Other than that, there's nothing out of the ordinary as far as anything seal wise. They're just O-rings, which we should have all that stuff on hand here. So I'm going to just pull the valves, that way we can yank the spools out, clean them up. And that's a bushing, and put new O-rings in them and put them back together, because they're obviously leaking, because there should be a little O-ring to seal the ends up here. Judging by all the build up here, they're at least weeping a little bit. So there's a little bit of goofiness going on here as far as continuity. These are just, looks like more 2050 chain links, or master links, that they've got here. And some are the style with the slide-on keepers, and some of them got cotter pins in them. Wrong weight. So shouldn't really have to screw with the levers, hopefully. Which all the cables feel loose, like they move in the cab side, they jiggle. So if they jiggle in the cab side, they have to be moving out here because it ain't like they got a bunch of stretch in them. So then I'll know for sure when I get the valves off. But we're going to pull the valves off, pull them apart, put new O-rings in them, clean the spools up, and hopefully be on the road, so to speak. And I did take a couple of them and try to pry on those spools with a screwdriver. They're stuck. So that's at least part of, if not all of, the problem. Oh, well, that one moves by hand. So yeah, I think our cables are all fine, which is a big relief because God knows how much those things would cost. I would think. I wouldn't believe they would have sourced specific cables to this tractor. I would think they would be the same as like a 225, 210, all those, but you never know, and I don't want to find out. All right, we've come to another one of those dumb design elements that I can't exactly figure out why they did it the way they did it. So, these top bolts that hold the valve stack together they're studs. They're threaded on both ends, and they're studs. And for some reason, they decided it was a good idea to have like 2.5, 3 inches of thread on this side and run it all the way through this block and then nut it on this side to hold this bracket on that holds the levers for the valves and the 3-point cable. And then we run into the issue, you got to thread it all the way out. Well, now I'm into the tire. So I think what I'm going to do, because I don't fully understand why these don't have to be threaded through. If they're nutted on the back, there's no reason to thread those through. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and cut these studs, because can't get them out with the tire on anyhow. And before I go to put it back together, we're going to drill these holes out for clearance for a 3/8 bolt. And then I'm just going to get long bolts, and we're going to put them together with bolts that just slide through. Because there's no reason whatsoever for this to be like this. And then the bolts will be shorter because they're not stud. These studs were way too freaking long anyhow. And that cover does not need to go back on. And if this does need to be covered up, I can figure out a better cover to make, because that chintzy thing, that's homemade. I don't know why they... Anyhow, somebody must have thought that they needed to be a cover here. So if it comes down to putting a cover over this to keep mud off of it, I can think of a better way to mount a cover than how they did it. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna take the grinder and zip these things off so I can get the valves out, and then we will put it back together with bolts, because this is stupid. I don't know why they chose to do it this way. All right, got the valve stack off. It's up in the shop. I did some measuring on there's two bolts that go in the bottom like normal. I measured those, and the protrusion you get when the stack's pulled up tight. And there's 3/4 of an inch of bolt sticking out past the valve. So what I can do, that won't involve modifying the tractor any and causing any undue carnage is get bolts that are the same length for the top as in the bottom. This block is not quite 1.5 inches thick, so I can put bolts in the top, run them in and bottom them out, and then put a couple short bolts in from the other side to hold this bracket on, and I think everything will be okay. Because all this does is, this doesn't do anything. It doesn't need a whole lot of help. So if I can get 3/4 of an inch for the valves and 1/2 inch, 3/4, whatever I can get for this to hold that on, wham bam, don't have to drill any holes, makes assembling the valve easier, makes assembling everything easier. So if this thing had 38s on it or 42s on it, it would probably be easier because you have a lot more hole in the rim and stuff might actually work out correctly. But with these 32s on here, a little different. So I think it's almost 9 o'clock. I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. We made some good headway, and I think that might be a good spot to end this particular video. The other nice thing about having this valve stack out of the way is it'll give me a good opportunity to pull this plate and investigate what's going on. If this bolt's broke off, if the hole's stripped. If the hole's stripped out, ain't a whole lot we can do about it at this particular time. But if the bolt's broke off, maybe be able to get something done about getting the correct bolt in there. So I also noticed that there's only one bolt holding it on in the front too. The other one's missing, so I gotta look and see if I can get in there to look and see the same thing. Is the bolt just missing? Is the hole stripped out? What's going on there? So I'm gonna put my tools away and call her a night. I'm running out of angles to take thumbnails for these videos. I mean, when it's crammed in the corner, you can only get so many views of it before they start getting repetitive. So I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do there real quick too. But anyhow, that'll be my problem to deal with. So that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one, which is gonna be more Eleanor.